Welcome back to our ISO 42001 Masterclass, the global standards shaping the future of responsible and trustworthy AI. In the previous episode, we explored Clause 6, where organizations learn how to plan AI governance. Risk assessment, impact assessment, objective, and statement of applicability was reviewed. But a plan, no matter how good, cannot succeed on its own. To execute AI governance effectively, an organization needs something equally important: the right people, the right skills, the right tools, the right resources, and the right documentation discipline. This brings us to Clause 7, support. Clause 7 is the backbone of your entire AI management system. It ensures your organization has everything required to turn plans into real world actions. Because here's the truth: AI governance does not fail because of risk framework, it fails because team lacks competency, clarity, training, or documentation. Clause 7 addresses that directly. In this episode, we'll explore the five critical elements of support: resources. Do we have enough people, tools, compute, time, data quality, and budget to run AI safely? Next, competency. Are our AI developers, data scientists, product teams, risk teams, auditors, and decision makers properly trained and qualified? Next is awareness. Does everyone know the AI policy, their responsibilities, the risk they must watch for, and how to report AI related issues? Followed by communication. Is AI governance communicated clearly, consistently, and effectively across the organization? Then we have documented information, which is, are we maintaining reliable documentation, model cards, lineage, logs, risk assessments, impact assessment, monitoring reports that auditors, regulators, and internal teams can trust? Clause 7 is where ISO 42001 becomes operational. It transforms governance from a strategy into a sustainable, repeatable, well supported system. By the end of this episode, you will understand how to build competency framework for AI roles, how to run awareness program for responsible AI, what documentation ISO 42001 expects auditors to see, why resource planning is essential for AI safety, how communication drives AI culture across the organization. So let's dive into Clause 7, where AI governance stops being an idea and becomes a capability your organization can rely on. Welcome. Welcome to part 4, Clause 7. This is your host, Savit Vittal Salian. Namaskar. Clause 7, support, has five components: resources, competency, awareness, communication, and documented information. Clause 7 ensures that your AIMS is not just a policy or a document, but a well resourced, well trained, well informed, and well structured system that can operate AI responsibility. Now, if Clause 6 was the brain of ISO 42001, Clause 7 is the muscle. It provides everything needed to bring AI governance to life across the organization. Clause 7 consists of, as mentioned earlier, resource, competency, awareness, communication, documented information. This clause is heavily linked to ISO 27001 and ISO 9001, but tailored for AI governance needs. So what's resource required? It constitutes skilled people, budget and time, tools and platforms, data resources, infrastructure and compute, governance committees. Resource. AIMS requires adequate resources to function effectively. ISO 42001 expects organizations to provide skilled personnel. Could be AI developers, MLOps team, ethics reviewer, auditors, or it could be financial resources for governance, tools, training, or controls. It could also include technical resources like GPU infrastructure, model monitoring tools, or logging platforms. It could also include data resources, which are high quality data sets, lineage systems, access controls. It also includes time resources for governance reviews, impact assessment cycle. The message here is clear. AI governance cannot be done in leftover time or with understaffed teams. Auditors will check whether resources are realistic and not just merely documented. Completeness requirement constitute competency criteria definition, training plans, AI ethics and risk training, role based skill requirements, and evaluations and certifications. Well, competency. The organization must ensure that anyone involved in AI activities is or are competent, which includes AI developers and engineers, data scientists, data governance team, model owner, AI risk assessor, internal auditors, impact assessors, legal and compliance specialist. Here, competency must be defined, measured or measurable, documented, demonstrated, and improved through training and experience. ISO 42001 also encourages competency metrics and or matrices and training plans for AI roles. Awareness expectations constitutes AI policy, risk and impact responsibilities, ethics and fairness, reporting channels, legal regulatory obligations. So, under clause 7.3 for awareness, everyone interacting with AI must be aware of the AI policy, their roles in the AIMS, the risks of irresponsible AI use, ethical principles such as fairness, transparency, and robustness, AI incident reporting mechanism. So, anyone interacting with AI must be aware of the incident reporting mechanism. critical aspect. They should be aware of regulatory responsibility, especially under the EU AI Act and DPDP or GDPR. They should be aware of consequence of non-compliance. Now here, awareness is not training. It is making sure everyone understands the stakes, not just the process. Good organizations conduct or would conduct workshops, simulations, town halls, micro learning modules, awareness postures, AI ethics newsletters, all form of creating awareness within the organization. In communication framework aspect, it is about what to communicate, when to communicate, who receives the information, who would send it to channels like emails or dashboards or committees or portals or any medium that works in the organization or all possible medium. Clause 7.4 Communication ISO 42001 requires organizations to define what AI related information needs to be communicated, when it needs to be communicated, to whom it is required to be communicated, by whom, and through which channels. The communication, this includes communicating AI policies, communicating risk or impact assessment results, reporting incidents promptly, sharing information with regulators or auditors, informing users or stakeholders about AI systems behavior, and communicating transparency obligation, especially for high risk AI systems. AIMS depends heavily on structured and timely communication. Under documented information, it must include AI policy, its scope, a clear RASI. Should include risk and impact assessment details. SOA, model cards and data lineage, incident logs, change logs, and monitoring reports. So, clause 7.5 documented information. This is one of the most important sections for audit readiness. ISO 42001 expects organizations to maintain and retain documentation. ISO 42001 expects organization to control documents properly through versioning, approvals, access control. It expects organization to ensure traceability across the AI life cycle. It expects to ensuring that the organization maintains logs for model training, model changes, and AI system behavior. ISO 42001 expects organization to document AI impact assessment, risk assessment, SOA, incidents, and controls. Examples of documented information include AI policies, AIMS scopes, risk assessment methodology, impact assessment methodology, model fact sheets, model cards, dataset lineage document, AI incident register, governance committee minutes, change logs for model updates, and evidence of monitoring and drift detection. Without strong documentation, certification would become impossible. Hence, 7.5 is critical. Let's look at the implementation checklist for clause 7. It starts with resource planning, which is approved by your leadership, followed by what's AIMS roles? Are they staffed with competent personnel? Is it adequately staffed with the right people? You have to demonstrate that. Here, the certifications, skill set, experience is what would be looked at or reviewed. Next, competency matrix for AI roles. Are they defined clearly? Example being a developer, evaluator, auditors, etc. What are the trainings completed for the role? You'll have to demonstrate the trainings that has been conducted, evidence that it was done, certification if it is involved. Next is whether awareness programs executed across all departments. If it is notification, mailers, or any other form of communication that was used to spread the awareness, that need to be documented, and when asked for should be able to provide, followed by a communication plan. Is a documented communication plan, internal or external communication, that need to be set up. AI governance committee scheduled with agendas. Next is document control procedures, were they implemented. You need to have a repository for AI documentation that were created. Central, it could be SharePoint, Confluence, Git, or anything that works for you in your organization. And finally, evidence retention schedule. Are they defined with logs, model cards? Are they maintained consistently? Do note, this is the implementation checklist. These steps are required from clause 7 perspective. And when there is an audit, these are things which would be asked for, would be investigated, would be reviewed. You can pause and you can take a screenshot and check against your current implementation checklist and see how many of these are aligned, what is missing, so you can work on it. Do note, these are indicative. You start with this and you can build on it based on your own unique organization's design and requirement. Auditor's checklist. What an auditor will verify. Well, class 7, an auditor comes for reviewing this aspect. They will first look at what is the evidence from resource perspective. What's the budget? What's the staffing plan? And records for infrastructure provisioning. What are the tools deployed for monitoring, for drift detection, for logging? Do note, post an interview or before the interview, this documentation might be asked for, at least to start with. So this structure should help you to plan your strategy as to how you are going to enable all of these, so that during audit, during review, internal or external, you are able to provide these 5 aspects. The next one is competency evidence. In this, training records, skill assessment records, competency matrix, qualification, and auditor's competency for internal aims audit. All of these would be looked at. That's from competency evidence perspective. From awareness evidence perspective, they would look at your material pertaining to awareness campaigns that you would have run, the attendance record, communication emails, your posters, your training decks, and survey demonstrating the understanding of your audience. The next aspect is communication evidence. You look at your communication plan, incident escalation framework, records of regulatory communications, and records of stakeholder notifications. So that would be your communication evidence. The next is documented information evidence. You look at all documentation. Are they controlled with versioning? Are they approved by the right authorities? Are logs maintained consistently? They look at your evidence retaining on the retention policy. They look at your accessibility and traceability of your AIMS document. This is from document information evidence perspective of clause 7. The next, auditor will also cross-check whether documented information aligns with the clause 6 of risk impact assessment, whether competency aligns with clause 8, which is operations, and whether communication records align with clause 9 of performance evaluation. Yes, we'll look at in detail on clause 8 and 9 as we move forward. But do understand the linkage of clause 7 with other clauses within ISO 42001. So, question is, how clause 7 links to the rest of ISO 42001? Well, clause 7 turns the AIMS from a plan into a living governance system. Clause 7 provides the resource and the backbone for risk management, which we discussed in clause 6. Without competent people and strong documentation, the AI controls defined in Annex A will fail. So, clause 7 is the base. Clause 7 documentation is required by internal audit, for internal audit, which is defined as in clause 9. And communication and awareness support ongoing improvement as defined in clause 10. So clause 7 has direct linkage to clause 6, clause 9 and clause 10 of ISO 42001. I hope this helps with the context on where clause 7 stands in this whole framework. With this, we will move on to the next clause 8, which covers operations. We'll take that in part 5. Here we end part 4. I'd like to thank you for the time that you have invested till now. This is your host, Savit Vittal Salian. Namaskar.